For thousands of years, India has stood as one of the oldest continuously inhabited civilizations on Earth. Long before many modern nations came into existence, the Indian subcontinent was home to thriving cities, remarkable scholars, powerful kingdoms, and a culture that influenced much of Asia. The history of India is not simply a story of wars and kings. It is the story of ideas, discoveries, trade, spirituality, courage, and resilience. It is a journey through thousands of years, during which countless rulers came and went, but the civilization itself continued to grow, adapt, and survive. Around 2600 BCE, one of the world's earliest urban civilizations flourished along the Indus River. Cities such as Harappa and Mohenjo-daro amazed archaeologists with their carefully planned streets, advanced drainage systems, public baths, brick houses, and organized marketplaces. These people traded with distant civilizations in Mesopotamia and developed a sophisticated society that was centuries ahead of its time. Although historians still debate why this civilization declined, its achievements became the foundation of India's long historical journey. As centuries passed, new communities spread across northern India. The Vedic Age introduced traditions, literature, philosophy, and religious ideas that shaped Indian civilization for thousands of years. During this period, the Vedas were composed, becoming some of the oldest surviving sacred texts in human history. Villages expanded into towns, agriculture flourished, trade increased, and powerful kingdoms began to emerge across the subcontinent. By the 6th century BCE, India was divided into 16 major kingdoms known as the Mahajanapadas. These kingdoms competed for power, wealth, and influence. At the same time, great spiritual teachers transformed the intellectual landscape of India. Gautama Buddha taught the path of compassion, wisdom, and freedom from suffering, while Mahavira inspired millions through the principles of non-violence and self-discipline. Their teachings spread far beyond India and influenced civilizations across Asia. One kingdom gradually rose above the others. In 322 BCE, Chandragupta Maurya established the Mauryan Empire with the guidance of the brilliant strategist Chanakya. Together, they created one of the largest empires in ancient Indian history. A well-organized administration, an efficient taxation system, and a disciplined army allowed the empire to unite vast regions under a single government for the first time. The Mauryan Empire reached its greatest height under Emperor Ashoka. Early in his reign, Ashoka launched a massive military campaign against the kingdom of Kalinga. Although he won the battle, the enormous loss of life deeply shocked him. Historical inscriptions suggest that the suffering he witnessed changed his outlook forever. Instead of celebrating victory, Ashoka chose a path of peace. He embraced Buddhism and dedicated his reign to justice, compassion, and public welfare. Roads, hospitals, wells, rest houses, and irrigation systems were built throughout the empire. His officials were instructed to serve the people fairly, and Buddhist missionaries carried his message across Sri Lanka, Central Asia, and Southeast Asia. Even today, the lion capital of Ashoka remains the national emblem of India. After Ashoka's death, the Mauryan Empire gradually weakened. Regional kingdoms regained their independence and political unity slowly disappeared. However, India's cultural and economic strength continued to grow. Trade routes connected the subcontinent with Rome, Persia, Arabia, and Southeast Asia. Indian spices, cotton, silk, ivory, gemstones, and steel became highly valued throughout the ancient world. Several centuries later, the Gupta Empire emerged, beginning what historians often describe as the Golden Age of India. During this period, remarkable achievements transformed mathematics, astronomy, medicine, literature, and art. Indian scholars developed the concept of zero and refined the decimal number system, discoveries that later became essential to modern mathematics and science. Astronomers accurately calculated planetary movements, while physicians advanced surgical techniques and medical knowledge. Great universities attracted students from distant lands, making India an important center of learning. While northern India flourished under powerful dynasties, southern India developed its own great kingdoms. The Cholas, Cheras, and Pandyas built prosperous states supported by agriculture, trade, and skilled craftsmanship. Among them, the Chola Empire became one of the strongest naval powers in Asia. Its fleets sailed across the Indian Ocean, establishing commercial and cultural connections with Southeast Asia and China. Magnificent temples, impressive engineering projects, and flourishing trade reflected the prosperity of southern India. For many centuries, India remained one of the richest regions in the world. As these invasions became more frequent, northern India experienced a period of intense political change. Among the most significant early invaders was Mahmud of Ghazni, who launched multiple military campaigns into the Indian subcontinent during the 11th century. His primary objective was to expand his power and acquire wealth. Several prosperous cities and temples were attacked during these expeditions, leaving a lasting impression on historical memory. However, Mahmud did not establish permanent rule over most of India. After his campaigns, he returned to his capital in Ghazni. About a century later, another Central Asian ruler, Muhammad Ghori, pursued a different strategy. Instead of temporary raids, he aimed to establish lasting political control. After the Second Battle of Tarain in 1192, his forces defeated the Rajput king Prithviraj Chauhan, opening the way for Muslim rule over much of northern India. Following Muhammad Ghori's death, his general Qutb-ud-Din Aibak founded what became known as the Delhi Sultanate. Over the next 3 centuries, several dynasties ruled from Delhi, including the Mamluks, the Khaljis, the Tughlaqs, the Sayyids, and the Lodis. Each dynasty faced rebellions, rival kingdoms, and invasions, yet together they built a powerful administrative system that governed large parts of northern India. They introduced new military techniques, expanded trade routes, constructed impressive forts, mosques, and cities, and contributed to the growth of Indo-Islamic architecture. Persian became an important language of administration, while Indian traditions continued to flourish alongside new cultural influences. Life during the Delhi Sultanate was complex. Different communities lived together across the subcontinent, exchanging ideas, languages, food, clothing, music, and artistic traditions. New architectural styles blended with existing Indian craftsmanship, creating monuments that still stand centuries later. Markets grew larger, agriculture expanded, and trade connected India with Central Asia, Persia, Arabia, and China. Despite periods of prosperity, the Sultanate also faced frequent conflicts with regional kingdoms that resisted its authority. One of the strongest southern powers during this period was the Vijayanagara Empire. Founded in the 14th century, it became a center of commerce, literature, architecture, and military strength. Its magnificent capital amazed travelers from Europe and Asia with grand temples, busy markets, and impressive engineering. For more than 2 centuries, Vijayanagara successfully resisted several northern powers before suffering a major defeat at the Battle of Talikota in 1565. Even after its decline, its cultural achievements continued to influence southern India. Meanwhile, in the northwest, a new conqueror was preparing to change the course of Indian history. Babur, a descendant of both Timur and Genghis Khan, sought new opportunities after losing territories in Central Asia. In 1526, he marched into northern India with a relatively small but highly disciplined army equipped with advanced artillery and firearms. At the First Battle of Panipat, Babur defeated Ibrahim Lodi, the last ruler of the Delhi Sultanate. This victory marked the beginning of the Mughal Empire. Babur ruled for only a few years before his son Humayun inherited the throne. Humayun faced powerful rivals and temporarily lost control of the empire to Sher Shah Suri, an Afghan ruler remembered for his administrative reforms. Sher Shah improved roads, introduced an efficient postal system, standardized currency, and strengthened revenue administration. Many of his reforms later influenced the Mughal rulers. Humayun eventually regained the throne, but his reign was short. After his death, his young son Akbar became emperor. Akbar would become one of the greatest rulers in Indian history. Ascending the throne at just 13 years of age, he gradually expanded the Mughal Empire through military campaigns, diplomacy, and alliances. More importantly, he focused on building a stable administration capable of governing a vast and diverse population. Akbar reorganized taxation, strengthened the civil service, encouraged agriculture, and promoted trade. He appointed talented officials based on merit, and formed alliances with many Rajput kingdoms through diplomacy as well as marriage. His policy of religious tolerance encouraged cooperation among people of different faiths. Scholars from various traditions were invited to debates in his court, reflecting his interest in learning and governance. Under Akbar, the Mughal Empire became one of the wealthiest and most powerful empires in the world. After Akbar came Jahangir, whose reign witnessed continued prosperity and artistic development. Paintings, literature, and architecture flourished, while trade with European merchants expanded significantly. Jahangir's wife, Nur Jahan, became one of the most influential women in Mugh. As the Mughal Empire weakened, the balance of power in India began to change rapidly. European trading companies that had once come only for spices, textiles, and trade now saw an opportunity to gain political control. Among them, the British East India Company proved to be the most successful. Through diplomacy, military victories, alliances with local rulers, and careful administration, the company gradually expanded its influence across the subcontinent. A decisive turning point came in 1757 at the Battle of Plassey. The company's victory in Bengal marked the beginning of British political dominance in India. Over the following decades, more territories came under company rule. New roads, railways, telegraph lines, and administrative systems connected distant regions. But many economic policies also placed heavy burdens on farmers, artisans, and local industries. India's traditional textile industry declined as British manufactured goods flooded the market, and many communities struggled under changing economic conditions. By the middle of the 19th century, dissatisfaction had spread across many parts of India. In 1857, soldiers of the East India Company, joined by rulers, landowners, and civilians in several regions, took part in a major uprising. Although the rebellion was eventually suppressed, it changed the course of history. The British government dissolved the East India Company and, in 1858, assumed direct control over India. This period became known as the British Raj. During the decades that followed, India witnessed both modernization and growing demands for self-rule. Railways expanded across the country, universities were established, newspapers spread new ideas, and political awareness increased. At the same time, many Indians believed that their country should govern itself rather than remain under foreign rule. In 1885, the Indian National Congress was founded, providing a platform for political discussion and constitutional reform. During the early 20th century, the struggle for independence gathered momentum. Mahatma Gandhi inspired millions through the principles of non-violence and civil disobedience. Campaigns such as the Non-Cooperation Movement, the Salt March, and the Quit India movement united people from different backgrounds in the demand for freedom. Other leaders, including Jawaharlal Nehru, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, Subhas Chandra Bose, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, Maulana Abul Kalam Azad, Sarojini Naidu, and countless freedom fighters contributed in different ways, reflecting the diversity of India's independence movement. The two world wars weakened the British Empire, while political negotiations and public movements intensified across India. After years of sacrifice, determination, and negotiation, British rule finally came to an end. On the midnight of August 15, 1947, India became an independent nation. For millions, it was a moment of joy and hope. At the same time, the partition of British India into India and Pakistan led to one of the largest migrations in human history and caused immense suffering for countless families. Despite these challenges, the newly independent nation began building a democratic future. On 26 January 1950, India adopted its constitution and became a sovereign democratic republic. Over the following decades, the country invested in education, science, agriculture, industry, space research, technology, and democratic institutions. Today, India is the world's largest democracy and